Webster and Hank Reesing. This is the Cook and the Gardener team. We have all come together to work on a revolutionary project, which is a landscaping company that works with homeowners to transform their lawns into thriving ecosystems to produce food. And then any excess food would be sold to cooks, chefs who would make various foods to be sold on the marketplace. And the idea is to, improve the environment while also improving our lives. So, what I've been doing so far is working with David to develop the business model for this. We went through 10 sessions and we talked about all of the aspects of what he envisioned for this because he's been thinking about it for many years. And I got that down on paper in this regenerative enterprise design canvas, which you can see below us. So we have a starting point now, and these are a couple of the people that he's been working with. And so bringing them into the conversation now to move this forward into the startup process. And the way that I do that is using Lean Startup. So we'd be using this business model canvas to define what we're doing and then deciding what we need to experiment on to refine, what we need to verify. So we'll get into that in a minute. But right now we need to get to know our team. So we're going to do some introductions. So I'm going to ask you each to introduce yourself, tell us how you got involved with this project, what brought you to it, and how you want to contribute to it moving forward. So let's start actually over here with Hank. Why don't you go first?
Yeah, hi, my name is Hank Reesing, and I'm a lead gardener with the Cook and the Gardener project. And what brought me to working with you all and David was attending a student forum for climate justice with David Braden serving as a moderator at CU Boulder. And I really enjoyed David leading a session and talked to him about his Cook and the Gardener project. And this was at the beginning of this year, and got involved and started coming to meetups at the Living Systems Institute after that. And what I'm hoping to get out of this project is to have a full-time job and also to work with people in my community, especially people that are associated with wanting to learn more about growing as I am and producing their own food and about where their food comes from, as well as medicinal aspects of plants. And I'm really open just to learning as much as I can, and that's kind of what brings me here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hank. So yeah, Christine, why don't you go next?
I'll try to do this while I'm also taking notes.
Okay.
My name is Christine Webster. I'm located in Southwest Denver. I am a brand designer by trade, but and operating my own design business from home. But simultaneously, I'm also a beekeeper, and my urban beekeeping project, the People's Bees, is actually what connected me to David Braden and Living Systems Institute as a greater initiative. I had met David through my beekeeping mentor, actually, whom he's been friends with for upwards of 8 years, I believe. And so since my beekeeping mentor Don's retirement, I've since stepped into building up a small apiary on David's property, and I've become more involved and interested in the initiatives by Living Systems Institute, including the Cook and Gardener project, but as well as the other programs the nonprofit is leading. So what I am bringing here today is my expertise in communications and branding, as well as lifting up and getting started this project by connecting homeowners and local gardeners to it to get it rolling.
Awesome. Thank you, Christine. And David.
Well, let's see. I am infamous in these circles. I'm the executive director of the Living Systems Institute. We formalized as a 501c3 in 2013. Before that, I was running a private company called Organic Landscape Design, trying to convince homeowners that they really need to change their relationship with the living things in the things that are living on their property, rather than trying to eliminate most of the things that want to live on their property. They should be embracing all the things that want to live on their property, and that would create a much healthier and more productive landscape than the one that they're trying to maintain through chemicals and hacking back and maintaining some sort of a picture from Better Homes and Gardens, because we can let nature thrive according to what she wants to do in the spaces where we occupy. And that will have repercussions in the way of restoring our habitats, restoring the missing species, pulling carbon from the atmosphere to address climate change and produce food for us. So all of these things can be done if we just recognize what our relationships with those living things around us are.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Yeah, so I want to be involved in this project mainly as a business consultant and facilitator. I mean, I am interested in doing things like this in my own community, but, you know, just kind of facilitating for now and seeing where this goes. So, yeah, the way that I'm envisioning this working is that we will have these sessions as meetings, and we still need to refine exactly what decision-making process we're going to use, because I'm, you know, going to use whatever process you guys agree to use. I am well versed in several different decision-making structures, but yeah, we would build an agenda here in the meeting and you know, discuss whatever topics need to be discussed. But I do want to keep the focus on developing the business model, developing you know, the basic aspects of what we're doing to make sure that we're moving in the right direction, basically. So, I mean, if we look here at this business model canvas, we can you know, see how that could kind of work. So you all can see the business model canvas. It's here. And I just want to kind of go through it a little bit to familiarize us with where we're at and show the audience the work that we've already done. So we've defined the organization. So these sections here on the first page, the customer segments, pains and desires, and value proposition, those are really the core pieces of a business model. The original business model canvas that I created this from is just a one-page document, and these are the three main components of it. In fact, there's a value proposition canvas that's just these three components. So this being the core of the business model, you want to be sure you really know who it is you're serving, who your customer segments are, what their pains and desires are, and what the thing is that you're offering to meet those, to meet those desires and ease those pains. And so through the startup process, what we really want to focus on is validating these to prove that we are correct in these assumptions, that these really are the customers that we're best suited to serve, that they actually have these pains and desires, and that our value proposition actually meets those pains and desires. Because, you know, in lean startup, the idea is that most businesses fail because they get that wrong. So we want to make sure we get that right. So we're talking about working with homeowners, gardeners, and cooks. And I highlighted cooks here because we haven't actually involved cooks in this yet. So I feel like it's kind of the piece of this that's maybe the most questionable as to you know, how exactly they're involved, you know, whether they're really going to want to be involved, whether we're going to be able to have them involved. And, you know, there could be even other customer segments like businesses, like apartment complexes that we could do landscaping with, that, you know, maybe would be even better to serve. We don't know. So, yeah, but David has already done some validation with getting some gardeners and homeowners involved. So we know at least some people are interested in this, but we don't quite know if there's a critical mass to make this successful. So that's what we're in the business to do. The first way we did that is market research. There's a couple pieces that we didn't kind of finish. One is the keyword search. So if we're going to do marketing, Christine probably knows a lot about this. Like, it's good to know what your target market is already looking for. Like, are they searching for these terms online? We can find that out really easily with Google search. We can find out how often people in the Denver metro area search for the terms alternative gardening, regenerative agriculture, regenerative landscaping. So it'd be really good to look that up and get some numbers here with how many people are actually looking for this sort of thing. And then we have some lists of some other businesses that are doing similar things, like other natural landscapers and permaculturists. And we might want to get some numbers on like how much they're charging and how many clients they have. So moving to page 2, I'm not going to go through all of this, but I highlighted here marketing because that's kind of the area that we probably need to focus the most on. And moving down to page 3. So the process for designing and testing products and the process for reevaluating business practices, with regenerative enterprise, the way I define that is not only regenerating ecosystems and communities, but also regenerating itself, like constantly innovating and reinventing itself. So you want to make sure that you're constantly experimenting, creating new prototypes or creating new ways of doing things and testing to make sure that they actually work. And so I put down, kind of based on what David and I talked about, how that would happen. But one question that I had was in the business practices, like who makes the final decisions on how people communicate with each other, the communication methods, like is it email, is there a forum, that sort of thing, who decides how much things cost, how much you're charging for things, who decides how much is spent on materials or equipment, and who decides, how you do things, what the logistics are, and how research is done. Is this a democratic process? Is it just the people in the management circle? Is it the entire, group of gardeners? I feel like that was still a little bit fuzzy. So that's something we might want to address soon. I added Christine and Henry here to Hank. No, it's Hank, right? I wrote that down wrong. Let me fix that.
No,
I'll fix that.
That's all right. That's my full name, but I go by Hank often.
Oh, because it was in your email. That's why I got confused. It's not my fault. Okay.
No.
So yeah, I added you to the key partners. That's awesome. Yeah, we can keep going. Page 5. So with the decision-making structure, yeah, we talked about having these 3 initial roles, having a coordinator, who's the head manager, kind of like the CEO, who would communicate with the board of directors, which you don't have yet because we haven't incorporated this yet. Maybe they would communicate with the Living Systems Institute, and then coordinate communication between the members, and also connecting the new homeowners with gardeners. And David had said that coordinator would be elected by all of the gardeners. I thought that was a little odd because usually a board of directors will hire the CEO. So, I mean, you can totally do that. I'm just pointing out that that's a little bit unusual. But we also talked about that there might be regional coordinators. And I thought, well, maybe the regional coordinators would want to decide who amongst them would be the head coordinator or something. So we're not totally solid on that, I feel. And then the decision-making structure within teams, we said, David said, an initial team leader would invite people to join the team and decide on the initial decision-making structure, which I think is great. But right now we have this team of you 3. And David is the head of that team, leader of that team. And, he said that he wanted to use something like, it was like, okay, we would like to have consensus, but if we can't reach consensus, then we would go to a vote. I get it. I've been in groups that have done that, but to facilitate that is kind of odd because consensus and majority rules are two completely different processes, and they have completely different rules. So I feel like I would like to know, like, which one are we using? Are we voting or are we doing consensus? Because they're kind of at opposite ends of the spectrum as far as who has power in that situation. With consensus, there's a lot of power on the individual because anyone can block anything for any reason. And I mean, if you say you want to do consensus, but if you can't come to a consensus, you vote, that doesn't make any sense. Because if someone blocks something, you're supposed to stop it right there and not even talk about it anymore. That's the rules of consensus. But if you're voting, then it's just however many more people like it, you know. It's kind of the tyranny of the majority of, you know, so the individual has almost no power in that situation because you can say, I hate this, and absolutely no, but if more people say yes, then you lose the vote. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, I kind of need to know, like, are we allowing people to block or not?
Well, and I'll express my opinion if you want me to now.
Sure.
Or we can go on.
Well, we're gonna start having a meeting, so let me go ahead and finish this, and then we'll address that first. Okay.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay. Page 6. We hadn't landed on if we're going to have, well, to be a cooperative, you have to have some sort of a membership share that people purchase. I mean, it could be like $10, but, you know, you do have to have people buy in and become official members. We hadn't decided on that. Also, we hadn't decided on what kind of percentage that you'd be taking out of services other than the $100 a month. If a landscaper was going to work with a homeowner to build a greenhouse or put in a food forest, you know, we didn't decide, would it still be the same 5% going to the cooperative or would it be different? And then, you know, with hiring somebody to do marketing, you know, Christine would like to be paid quite a bit, and I really don't see how that's going to work with the budget. I've got a bunch of question marks. Yeah, we need to figure out how money would work. And then that's it. That's all I had as far as things that I think were still a little iffy. Obviously, this whole document, any of it could be changed. So, yeah, I figure what we'll do now is just kind of build an agenda of issues that you guys want to discuss about this. Those were just some suggestions that I had. So we could definitely put that decision-making structures first on the list. Christine, if you could write that down, like bullet point number 1, decision-making structure. And then let's go ahead and build the agenda now then. What else would you guys like to discuss for the rest of the time?
Well, I think we need to be clear about the fact that we do have 2 entities. We have an existing entity and a proposed entity.
Mm-hmm.
So the Living Systems Institute already has its own structure, which makes essentially that I have a board of directors, but I have yet to have them say, no, David, you can't do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, and that's the way it's set up in the LSI. We're set up as a nonprofit corporation, and so the corporation rules are that the board of directors majority of vote of a quorum. But that's only that part of it, and that part of it could be the one that is hiring Christine to raise money to facilitate the development of the proposed organization. So, I mean, I would like to talk that through so that at least we all have the idea of what the possibilities are.
Okay, so could you summarize that in like 3 words for the agenda item?
Okay, so relationship between LSI and the cook and the gardener.
Okay. All right. I mean, we still have another 45 minutes, so what else do you guys want to discuss?
I think that initial discussion of fees for additional services, like bigger projects, would be nice at some point. I don't tonight or anytime, but that could be helpful for gardeners.
Yeah, if we don't have time to get through everything on the agenda, we can, you know, put it on the agenda for next time. But
I think that's a great add-on, Hank. And I would like to just add on roles and responsibilities as it pertains to gardeners within the Cook and Gardener project, because I think that it is very much so at this stage in the project. We need self-starters. And I think that some of our gardeners so far have had a hard time understanding that. So it'd be great to explore that with you, Jackie.
Yeah, cool. Okay, I'm gonna switch back over to your notes real quick to see the agenda. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So you put some of the things that I wrote down. Can you put that decision-making processes first in the list, and we'll just go through these in order? Yeah, or the ones that we put first. Awesome. Okay. So yeah. So go ahead, David. What were you going to say about decision-making?
Oh, okay. So on decision-making, the way I envision it working is that in terms of an individual gardener having a relationship with 20 individual clients, just as a general scenario, the gardener has absolute control over how and when they're going to be providing those services to the homeowner, and the Cook and the Gardener partnership is there in a support role. And the more that that central organization can provide support, the more that individual gardener is going to be willing to contribute some part of their income in exchange for that support.
Sure.
When we get to Hank's issue about larger projects, the way I envision that happening is that a gardener who has clients, or maybe not, wants to develop an expertise, in this case, let's say building greenhouses. And they are going to come up with the design for the greenhouse, a materials list for the greenhouse, a pricing for the greenhouse, a process to site and build the construct the greenhouse on the client's site. And then that person is entirely in control of who's going to come and help them with that.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So we discussed all this prior, and it is in the business model canvas. And I think what you're addressing right now would go under the last thing that Hank brought up about the roles and responsibilities of gardeners. I was actually going back to the first agenda issue that we listed, which was how we're going to make decisions in this meeting today. As far as consensus versus, we can go back to what you were just talking about, but I wanted to address first,
Sure.
how are we allowing people to block or not? Basically, is my question.
Okay. Well, and my answer to that is no. I mean, there's the four of us here, and we are all in favor of having the Cook and the Gardener project become a reality. And we all have things that we can contribute to that. And each of us is in control on whether or not we're going to be able to do this, or this in terms of facilitating the control. So when we talk about these are the things that need to be done, the first issue is there anybody going to volunteer to do those things? And if somebody volunteers, then we'll all vote yes, right?
That sounds like holacracy.
Right. Yeah. If it comes down to something like, well, we've got $1,000 here, how are we going to spend it? We might have a division. We might say, well, we should spend it on doing a video, or we should spend it on printing door hangers. And I don't want to get hung up on that issue. I want to just say, all right, we're split 2-2, which way are we going to go? We're not going to do anything that way, but we're split 3-1. Let's just go ahead and buy the door hangers, if that's just so we can move forward. And that's the way I see it, but I'm not in control here either.
Well, technically you are at the moment, because you're the team leader, and you did specify that team leaders get to decide what the initial decision-making structure is. Once you decide that, then we could all use that structure to change it. Sure. If you decide we're going to vote, then we could all vote to change the decision-making structure, right? Well, I'm the facilitator. I am neutral. So, Yeah, or else we'd have a tie. That would be terrible. Yeah, I mean, what you were saying there about, somebody coming in with their idea and they're volunteering to do it and they're just going to do it, so you're going to vote yes. That's what I would call consent, is that if somebody brings a proposal and they're willing to take responsibility for it, the automatic vote is yes. In Holacracy, there is like this, if someone can prove that it would damage the organization's ability to fulfill its purpose, they could block it. But you have to like show that and convince the facilitator that you can prove that, basically, that it's a bad idea. That not just that you don't like it, but that it would actually cause damage to your ability to fulfill your purpose if it passed. Right.
Well, yeah. And so if somebody says we want to run a seminar on tilling the soil, I might object to that, right?
Right. Exactly. So that's the only case in which block would pass. So that's kind of Holacracy, which is my favorite decision making. Sorry, my cat keeps attacking me. She's like attacking me. She doesn't usually do that. So yeah, I really like that. And now I hear her. Is it still happening? Okay, it stopped. Sorry, there was an echo for a second. But then the voting, okay, in Holacracy, then if someone brings a proposal, again, that like is going to affect multiple people, then you would go through a process where they'd make a proposal and then get feedback and then ask if anybody blocks it. I'm not sure about the point of like voting, though, like whether you like it or not. Like, how do you feel about that?
Well, so I agree that you want to have everybody express their opinion before you make a decision, right?
Uh-huh.
And in my experience in the law firm where we did it pretty much this way, I mean, each lawyer had their own cases and they had ultimate authority on how they're going to pursue each of their cases. And then we as a firm, we're going to make an investment or not. And everybody would express their opinion, and then we'd get a sense about whether it was going to go forward or not, whether most of the people were in favor of it. And then I don't think we ever actually took a vote because everybody said, okay, let's do this, right? Mm-hmm. But that was with the understanding that if we did take a vote, then we all knew who was going to vote which way by the time we got to that point anyway. Mm-hmm. So, I'm willing to try it the other way. I've also had some really bad experience with consensus.
Yeah, me too. I'm not a fan of consensus at all. I mean, to me, consent is different because, I mean, especially in Holacracy, which even has this it goes farther than sociocracy, even in that they have this owning your tensions. So if you have a problem, it's your problem. And you need to own the process of coming up with a proposal for it. So you can't just say, I see this problem, it's everybody's problem, you fix it. No, it's like, I see this problem, I'm going to take responsibility for it. Therefore, I'm going to hold the whole process of coming up with a proposal. You don't have to necessarily come in with a fully formed proposal, but you're going to be kind of the center of attention as far as the person who's actually figuring out what the proposal is going to be and presenting it and taking the feedback from people, integrating it, editing the proposal, putting forth the final proposal, and saying, does anyone block this? Does that make sense?
Okay, we got nods.
Yeah.
I didn't want to interrupt, and there's a little bit of a delay. So yes, Jackie. And while I'm already speaking, I think this is such a great exercise. You're digging into something that I know Hank and I haven't quite experienced yet with Living Systems Institute. We're pretty fresh to the organization. And so we all bring unique talents to the table, and so far haven't actually run into any decision-making issues, but it's good conversation.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, okay. So we do need to know how to move forward. And I'm feeling bad because I'm just like kind of pushing, like, I like Holacracy, please use Holacracy. But you know, I mean, if you want to just use a voting structure, that's fine too. So David, put down the hammer. What do you want?
Well, no, and I can't say that I fully understand holacracy and that there might be something I would object to down the road, but so far it sounds fine to me.
Okay.
That's the main thing. That's what I do understand about holacracy,
Okay.
is to push the decision making out to the edges,
Okay.
and to let everybody doing the work have the responsibility for doing it the way they want to do it.
Okay. So you want to let me just facilitate what I know? And then
Yes.
if you have a problem with it, we can totally change it. But okay.
Right. Well, if we come to some sort of impasse, then maybe we'll have to figure out how we're going to get past the impasse. But.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to facilitate then, because David has given the okay and he's the team leader, to facilitate Holacracy. If anyone has an objection to that, please raise it. Does anyone have an objection?
No.
No.
Not today.
Okay. Okay, cool. And I might brush up a little bit on my Holacracy facilitation before next time. I am not a certified Holacracy facilitator. Unfortunately, that is something I would like to do at some point, but I'm not yet. So it might be a little messy, but I used to use it at the business that I was at in my last job, so I'm fairly familiar with it. Okay, so moving forward then. Let's see. Hold on just a second. I'm trying to fix the screen so I can... Oh, I'm using the wrong... I'm sorry. I'm trying to be able to see the whole screen real quick, and I can't see what I'm doing, so that's a problem. Okay, okay. Sorry. I'm adding a bunch of spaces at the bottom of your document so that I can scroll down and see the bottom of it. Okay, so next, what are we going to do next? Do we want to go back to that roles and responsibilities of gardeners topic that David started talking about? Does that sound good to everybody?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Okay, so David, what you were saying about that, I think Hank specifically wanted to get to the point where we have some agreement about what the cooperative would be taking from those as a percentage. Is that right, Hank? Or what were you wanting to know exactly when you brought that up?
Yeah. Well, what I heard David say a moment ago was that in the example of building a greenhouse, that the gardener that is involved would come up with a proposal for the greenhouse and decide who they want to work with, and so it sounded to me like you would be able to kind of set your own prices and limits with input, but that's how I heard that.
Right. So,
okay.
All right, then, so you as an independent business then, so take that point of view. You as an independent business would have obligations as a business owner that include setting up an employee identification number with the IRS and withholding on the wages of your employees and all this other stuff that a typical business needs if you were independent of the Cook and the Gardener project. If we're going to do this through the Cook and the Gardener project, then we can have the center, the administration of the Cook and the Gardener project do all of that stuff for you as a business owner. But that's going to take money. It's going to take a percentage of what you earn building greenhouses for people in order to have all of the money flow through the Cook and the Gardener bank accounts, all of the tax withholding, all of the liability insurance, all of that stuff. Now, I see it as you probably wouldn't be hiring employees. What you would be doing would be bringing on other gardeners who have some experience with this and saying, we're going to be the team, but we're all partners in this. And so we don't really have tax withholding and that sort of stuff. We're all partners. Everybody joining the Cook and the Gardener is a partner. And then we'll have to talk about, there's experienced partners and inexperienced partners, and how are we going to do that. But if you have a reputation for building good greenhouses efficiently and making money at it, then you can form your own team. And it doesn't have to be just one team in the Cook and the Gardener. We can have 3 teams of greenhouse builders. And then we're going to go to the center and say, what kind of promotion can we give to the community at large, saying you need to contact the Cook and the Gardener Partnership if you want a greenhouse on your property. And these are the benefits of having a greenhouse on your property. And then the homeowner comes in, how are we going to divide it among the 3 greenhouse building teams, right? Those are the things that I see as complications moving forward, but the basics are fairly simple, is that whoever's going to do the work has control of the money and has control of who they want to work with. But we as an organization want to give you all the support you need to be successful. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds really similar to when I was discussing with a natural builders group. They were talking about, actually they're in Denver too, we're talking about possibly making a cooperative, kind of the same structure that they were talking about using. So, I mean, is there a decision here that needs to be made, or was that just clarifying?
Well, so what we need to decide is how we're going to present this to our gardeners. So right now, all we're presenting is 20 clients, $100 a month. And then you can still do something else to make more than $2,000 a month, right? Mm-hmm. And then somehow I would like to be able to say, but the upside, I mean, we've got blue sky here. The upside is unlimited. So it depends on, how skillful we are, and how good we are at the marketing, and how good we are at following through and providing the service.
Okay.
Is there, David, is there any reason why we would first promote that gardeners turn this concept into their own independent business right out of the gate, or encourage that it could evolve to that by starting with a Cook and Gardener project partnership?
So it could evolve into that. But it doesn't have to wait any given period of time. I mean, we've got right now a lead gardener and 23 people who said they might be interested down the road in providing the $100 a month service, right? And they're all sitting there right now saying, well, that would be good if I had 20 clients. That might work out for me, but do I want to put in the effort to actually go out and find 20 clients within a range where I can actually provide the service? And so maybe if we can start describing the upside, maybe we do start getting more participation at the base level.
Yeah. Okay. I just think that when it comes to, it's similar to the concept of the cook, right? The cook isn't happening yet, but it is the long-term vision. I think it's almost similar for the independent business opportunity, that's long-term vision, and it is an opportunity that we can tout. But first and foremost, we want Cook and Gardener project gardeners to begin with us. And that's actually a great segue, David, I feel like, into my one concern, which is the responsibility of the gardener is to obtain their own clients. And that is what a lot of them are grappling with. Not everyone has that entrepreneurial spirit, I think. And so I think that is going to be a major communication point in recruiting gardeners. We've gotten a lot of engagement from gardeners. And then once they realize that they have to go out and fish for themselves, the response I'm sensing so far, I don't have hard data for it yet, but is that, oh, I thought the clients were there and I'm ready to get working now. So there is legwork in building a client portfolio initially.
although it's not necessarily all one side or the other, because the gardeners can decide to invest in the marketing effort to bring in the clients. And then it's a question of how are we going to allocate the clients that didn't come in at the request of a particular gardener, right? Which is Hank's job. Do you have gardeners that have you had, where are we right now in terms of homeowners that want services and gardeners to provide those services, Hank?
We have, I believe, at least 3 homeowners that are currently enrolled and paying for services. And I am a gardener providing services for those 3, along with at least 2 other gardeners, and there's more that have expressed interest. And there are quite a few other homeowners, maybe I believe you mentioned 20 some other homeowners that have expressed interest, and I'm in the process, and we the gardeners are in the process of seeing how we can set up a partnership with those homeowners.
And so this is one of the things that we might ask Jackie to do for us, if it fits in with her schedule for the time being, and maybe compensate her for as we move forward, is to hold, say, a monthly Zoom meeting for any gardener who is interested, just for you as gardeners to get together and talk about what you need and how can LSI or the Cook and the Gardener process, Cook and the Gardener organization, such as it is, can provide what the gardeners are looking for. Is that something you'd be willing to do, Jackie?
Yeah, sure. I can facilitate a conversation. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like the way it is right now, I feel like kind of one of the biggest kind of roadblocks to this moving forward is that, a lot of people, when they see something like this, they might get excited about it, but having it be so vague and just like, okay, show up to a meeting and we'll talk about it, or email me and I'll get back to you, really isn't as like engaging as saying, click this button and now you're a member. Like if it was just clear that people could just get involved and jump in and be a part of it immediately, and not have all of this kind of like, let's get together and discuss it. If we had some way of just bringing them in, maybe we don't have all the pieces of it put together, but if we have some piece of it that people can go ahead and know what they're walking into without having to ask a bunch of questions to figure it out. You see what I'm saying? Like, if it was all just laid out in one landing page where these are the bullet points of exactly what this is and how to get involved in it, click here to get involved. Like, I feel like you'd get a lot more responses that way. You get a lot more engagement. You get a lot more gardeners. If it's weird and confusing, then I think a lot of people will kind of end up walking away. That's just my sense of it. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I agree.
Christine is agreeing.
Yeah, I agree. And David, Hank, and I all 3 have discussed, the chicken and egg scenario of and this is kind of maybe a nice segue into market research and strategy. What comes first? The paying clients, where the work begins today, or rather yesterday, or gardeners. And so we've gotten a lot of gardeners' interest, and I admittedly am a little behind in marketing for and obtaining some new clients for us. But that's definitely our next focus, because we've gotten such interest from gardeners. We need homeowners in order to hire those gardeners, so that when they come to us interested, we're ready to pay them.
Yeah. I mean, but would they even get paid at first? Like, we talked about having kind of like an introductory phase where people are coming in, they have no idea what they're doing, that they would like shadow or intern with a gardener who's already got clients. I mean, could that be the first step? Because Hank already has 3 clients, that they could go and just work with Hank as an educational opportunity. And then we're going to say, okay, and then as soon as you're ready and we have more clients, then you'll have clients,
Yeah, I really like that, Jackie, and that reminds me that I want to send out an email to the gardeners that I'm going to meet with a client next week, and I think it would be a good idea to do that kind of internship or learning opportunity to have maybe a few gardeners or potential gardeners tag along and pick up what they can or help.
That is
that's
good to know. That is new to me. I think it's a great idea to require an upfront, internship. We should elaborate on that. For how long is that? How many sessions? To what point is a gardener trained for regenerative landscaping?
it might be up to the mentor, because I mean, somebody might come in, they've already taken a permaculture course, they already get it, maybe they only need to shadow you a few times and they get it, or maybe somebody just has absolutely no idea and they need to shadow you for 3 months before they get it,
Well, and so right now, Hank, as our lead gardener, has that authority. Not only assigning a homeowner to a gardener, but to say, we have this project coming up and gardener Y does have the skills I need, and I will share that $100 with them to get this project done. And it doesn't have to be equal share. I mean, you could give them of the $25 an hour, you could give them $5 an hour if that made sense and they agreed to that, right? But that's where we are right now. And we would like to expand that. And that would go for anyone who brought in their own clients and already had that relationship with the clients. Then they could offer internships or come experience the gardening experience. So that's why it's vague, is we can do it however it's going to work, right?
Yeah, I think the word apprenticeship would be better than internship.
Yes, that's good. I like that. So Hank, I mean, it's interesting because Hank and I have both participated in one afternoon of training with David. Who do we consider to be the mentor in this situation? Hank is our lead because he's in a great position to be, and he does come with knowledge. But David, are you considered the mentor in this situation? It is your vision.
Well, sure, but so this is LSI supporting the project, right? And when we get to fundraising, we're going to have to be clear about this is supporting LSI, who is going to use its expertise to help develop the partnership, or this is money that's going to go into the partnership. But what I can do is hold bi-monthly events that anybody who is interested can come and attend. I've thought about, I've had people request that I come out and give my opinion, but I think that's the wrong way to go. I think we have to, it's wrong for me to get in between the gardener and the homeowner. But the gardener can always come to me and ask whatever questions they have.
Sure.
But
so,
the homeowner has to be looking to their gardener to work these things out, right?
Yeah. I'd say David is an advisor and Hank is the mentor for his apprentices.
That makes sense.
And they can all come and get the advice that they need.
Yeah, I'm absolutely in favor of, I'd suggested monthly, not only monthly gardener meetings for those who are active gardeners reporting into Hank, but also orientations for both homeowners and gardeners to learn about this program as we continue to bring clarity to it. And we can do all of that through Zoom currently. should absolutely do
And
that.
maybe indefinitely, right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Cool. Yeah, so I mean, it sounds like what we're discussing here is actually just clarifying what powers Hank already has, because I guess, maybe we didn't really um, define this, but so Hank is the head coordinator, right? It's the coordinator. Do we have any of these other positions filled at this point? Because there's a product developer and there's a bookkeeper.
And I'm the bookkeeper so far.
So would Christine be the product developer then?
Well, no, Christine is director of communications, is what we've talked about.
Okay, then we're going to need to redefine our roles then.
Yeah, and then I'm also product developer.
Okay, you're the product developer.
Yeah, and bookkeeper.
Okay, so we're going to need to add a new role. So can we put that on the agenda? We might not do it right now, but can we add that to the agenda to define Christine's role as communication coordinator?
Sure. Yeah. It's okay with me. How do you all vote?
That sounds good to me.
Yeah, we don't need to vote for agenda items. We'll just throw it on there and get to it when we get to it. Okay, so did we get that on there, Christine?
I'm sorry. I'm pausing to think. What was just discussed? I'm also taking notes
here. Sure. Just at the bottom of this list, just add define communication coordinator.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, so I want to make sure we got everything we need on this one. So we were talking about the roles and responsibilities of gardeners, and we specified that Hank has the power to take on apprentices and to mentor them for however long he thinks that they need to be mentored before he trusts them to take on their own homeowners, and that he is also the coordinator that would match them with homeowners. So whenever he feels that, he has the power to then match them with a homeowner and send them off. Correct?
Yeah, and he also wants to be poking them and saying, you can go out and get your own clients.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, and maybe kind of make it a team effort, and like, hey, we're all working together. Let's do this thing. You guys knock on these doors, I'll knock on these doors. And then that David is then the advisor in this situation. Was there anything else that we needed to that we got clear about here? Am I missing anything?
Not that I can think of. I think that was a good breakdown for both these two guys.
Okay. Yeah, and then there's the idea of having monthly meetings for the gardeners, but that would be whose job is it to decide about monthly meetings?
I just moved those. I think according to whose responsibility that would be. So in the case of a monthly forum for the active gardeners, makes sense for Hank as mentor and lead gardener to facilitate that. Hank and David, do you guys agree?
I'm open to facilitating the gardener meeting.
And I can 20
contribute.
Minutes. That could be 45 minutes of just a check-in and making sure your active gardeners have all the support they need. And maybe not until you have at least 5 of them. Maybe in the meantime, casual texting is what does it. Although I'm a fan of documentation, but whatever works for you.
But then also the idea of having new gardeners meet. I mean, whether or not I facilitate it or not, I think it would be one of the roles that would decide we're going to have this and schedule it. So would that be the communication coordinator that would decide that?
For new gardeners, you said,
yeah.
Jackie?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can absolutely work with David on the monthly orientations for prospective homeowners and gardeners, which is, it's education and outreach.
And then and we may be able to combine it in terms of the regular active gardener meeting, and and having them discuss what they need in order to take the next step forward in the process, and have that open to prospective gardeners. We may or may not want to have a split. I think we do have I don't know, maybe we don't do. We'd have a homeowner forum whenever we had enough interest, and then the monthly gardener meeting in order to just be able to touch bases with any gardener that had any kind of issue that they needed to deal with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How do you think about that, Hank?
Yeah, I definitely want to mention that I mentioned the possibility of a homeowner Zoom meeting or an open meeting to one of the homeowners who was interested in contributing and being a part of that. So there's been some interest, and also I've talked to some people that are in the regenerative field that are interested in just checking it out, that would be interested in that meetup, however whatever form that takes.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely been some interest that I've heard.
Yeah, I wonder about the efficacy of having homeowner meetings versus having the gardeners act as consultants and kind of just meet with an homeowner, one-on-one, either have a phone call or a Zoom meeting, or, when you can meet in person, actually go to their house and like meet them and talk to them, and just talk to them one-on-one versus having a meeting. That's something maybe you could try to see if it works better.
Are we talking about the orientations as the educational component and outreach?
Well, yeah, I think we need to be clear about the two, right?
I'm talking about recruiting, like the act of recruiting new homeowners. Like, is it that you're inviting homeowners to an event, or would it be better for gardeners to just go out and recruit and just have a conversation with them directly?
Yeah, I think both actually are viable. Holding monthly orientations is one way for community outreach, and also a door open for partnerships to be hosted by, I'm just going to throw this out there, Hudson Gardens, some sort of partnership with them to be able to hold an orientation under the topic of regenerative landscaping as it's relevant to a partner such as them. And then another sales tactic, obviously, is to reach out directly to homeowners. Hank, for example, in his neighborhood, to literally go cold calling his neighbors to say, hey, I offer this service, would you like? So I think both are viable. What do you guys think?
Yeah, so if we're going to be doing a sales presentation, then we're going to need to, decide who's going to do it, what we're going to say, how we're going to approach it, what kind of documentation do we want to be presenting, which we have, everything that I've taken in the past, but it's not a good time to generate new materials right now because everything is white and brown.
Sure. Yeah, I'm just thinking that kind of presentation might do better, like as part of an educational event, or like a garden party, rather than just having a meeting, where you're going to sit there and hear a presentation about this business, and it's like timeshare, sitting in one of those timeshare meetings where they're trying to sell you a timeshare. It's like, having it be more of a fun educational type event where you happen to make a presentation about the thing, rather than making that the event.
And we can always, even with COVID, we can invite people to come and tour the properties, and that'll become more and more viable as the weather starts to warm up. Every day is getting longer.
Yes, I'm glad that you mentioned that too, David, because we've discussed this, Jackie, about from the education and outreach perspective, these monthly Zoom orientations for those who are interested in just learning about regenerative landscaping. And then, by the way, we offer this, but also when we come together in person or in small groups in in the spring, really, even first week of January, if David was comfortable with it, is we facilitate tours on his property. It really is a proof of concept. That's just a third avenue for connecting with people.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, just the way I had heard it pitched, it kind of sounded like a timeshare pitch or something. And I'm like, is that really what people want to go to? But yeah.
Yeah, totally agree. I don't think that's the most effective way to go. But when we talk about orientations in person, I guess I've done these for the People's Bees. They're a production. It's a lot of effort. And so, and something that I'm happy to rise to the occasion too, but that is where we can get into compensation was one of the points you had brought up, Jackie, of course. But in the meantime, I think Zoom meetings are great between us three or whoever is able to contribute to that 1 hour or however long.
Okay, that's good. I think we've discussed some ideas we can experiment with, but yeah, I don't think we need to come into any hard decisions on, like, I mean, unless you guys have an idea that, like, the first thing you want to try, is there the first thing coming up that you guys want to do in that vein?
Well, I would like to see what we can do in the way of a Zoom meeting for the gardeners and see what kind of interest we can get.
Okay, so that would be kind of the first next event that we'd want to organize, is a Zoom meeting for gardeners.
I think that needs to be set up as a reoccurring meeting. Sorry, guys, for active gardeners currently, the two that are reporting into Hank, or for prospective gardeners?
Any gardener who is interested.
Okay, prospective.
So would that be under Hank's jurisdiction then, or would that be under Christine's?
Well, Hank and I can do the presentation. I don't have any expertise in setting up a Zoom meeting.
Yeah, I would definitely facilitate that, and then of course leave the content to you and Hank.
Okay, so Christine is willing to set that up. And it sounds like you don't need me, but do let me know if you do want me to help. But it sounds like you guys can get that together.
Well, so at the point, I do want you involved at the point where the gardeners are saying, how are we going to organize ourselves to become a company instead of just a group of individual gardeners?
Well, would that happen in the prospective gardener meeting, or would that happen in the active gardener meeting?
I guess we could do two different types of meetings.
Sure.
Get people who have made a commitment to be at least an apprentice could come and join the form the organization meeting.
Yeah. Okay, so it sounds like the meeting you were just talking about first about getting prospective gardeners together. I think you guys can handle that, because you just need to tell them what it's about and try to get them interested and get them to meet with Hank, and go out to a garden with him or something, kind of make a commitment to do that. And then they can come to another meeting, which would be for people who have committed to doing this. And that would be an actual meeting. And I could facilitate that.
Sure. If you're willing, yes.
Sure. To decide like the internal structure of how they're working together. But does that even really need to happen until you, like with these starter gardeners, or would you want to wait until they've got their own clients and are like full-fledged gardeners before you really give them that decision making?
I want to start immediately, although they don't have to actually make any decisions until they want to take that step and formalize the organization, right? I want them to be thinking about it. Because this is not going to be a project of the Living Systems Institute indefinitely. It's going to be, our goal is to make it into a functioning operation or business.
Sure.
Functioning business.
Sure. But I think that's what this series of conversations is about. Like, we're going to be talking about specifics as far as incorporation at some point. So they could join this conversation. I mean, for now, they could even just watch it live and contribute. Oh, by the way, I completely forgot. If you're watching this and want to contribute, please type into the chat room. It's right there. I will see it and I will respond. So they could just join the conversation that way, as they are prospective or just starting to get involved. And then if you wanted to like bring them on as part of the team and involve them in that full conversation, they can jump in the Zoom conversation and we can get into the nitty gritty of like how you're incorporating this.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I want that to be upfront, I guess, in terms of our purpose is to form a independent business entity called Cook and the Gardener Partnership, or whatever name they decide to adopt.
Sure. I mean, I don't really see any need to jump too fast into it because, I mean, it can function very well as an independent project. I mean, it's not independent, but like as a project that is under the Living Systems Institute. You know, I think there can be full decision-making power, and it can operate, you know, like as if it were an independent entity without actually incorporating.
That's correct. And we don't want to push it, but we do want to make it clear that this is where we're headed. This is why we want your participation, is for you to be a partner and to make this work as for our community.
Is that it's a partnership, right? I mean, a nonprofit can actually own a for-profit company.
Right, which is where language is important in this situation. I believe in the nonprofit world, it's a program. It's really a program within a nonprofit. Yeah, it gets tricky.
Yeah, but it can operate as a cooperative, you know, in this context. I think, you know, I mean, incorporation, I think it's going to be, you know, you're gonna have to get a lawyer involved, and it's going to be expensive and whatnot. I mean, I would love to do it, but you know, there's no need to jump into it. I think getting the market set up and getting the team set up and all of that is more important than worrying about the legal status of it.
We need to get it growing first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
That was Caroline's recommendation as well, is that once you have once you have the gardeners in place serving homeowners, then you have a proof of concept where there is money in the co-op world as opposed to the charitable grant funding world.
Right.
But you know, you can't really mix the two, I guess is what her comment was. So let's just focus now on bringing on the gardeners and the homeowners and working out the details and prove the concept.
All right, cool. So, yes, we are actually out of time. But we did get somewhere as far as talking about how the gardeners are going to be involved in this, how Hank is leading them. How it's organized in bringing in new gardeners and getting them set up to be a part of this. I think we've gotten clear about that. So yeah, next time we can get specific about Christine's role. We can talk about, let's see. I mean, we'll build the agenda when we meet again, so we'll have time to think about it and what we want to talk about next time. But sorry, my brain's starting to like turn off.
I would love to elaborate on your role as well, Jackie. Your introduction and email was great for us, but I think for all intents and purposes, I can already see overlap when we talk about what is the next event for prospective gardeners, who facilitates that. So as our business consultant, you know, I want to make sure that I'm respecting those boundaries. And so we should, of course, talk about you too.
So wait, are you saying you need more clarity around how I would be involved in that kind of thing?
Responsibilities for yourself too would be great. Yeah. And how you envision that.
Okay. Yeah. I'll think about how to work that in. Cause I'm seeing myself as the facilitator. So I guess I could have the role as the facilitator or something like that. Yeah.
Of all things, like client facing?
No. I mean, mainly just as the facilitator of the process of developing your business plan and launching the startup process. I mean, imagine we're in a business incubator and you're showing up to the business incubator and I'm like leading the process of doing that. But then you go out into the world and do your business, you know? That's kind of how I'm seeing it.
that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I'm trying to figure out how to wrap this up nice and neat. Thank you all for joining us. I just feel like I'm just kind of leaving it off. I want to like tie it in a bow or something. But yeah, we have a lot of work left to do. We need to get clear about roles. We need to come up with a business plan and a marketing funnel. That's kind of where I see a lot of work needing to be done. So I really look forward to talking with you all next time. Anybody who's watching this, whether live or after the fact, you are perfectly welcome to join us next time. We are going to be meeting on this again. I have a calendar on my website at regenerativedynamics.com, although you can also get to it if you search regenerativerevolution.org. It goes right to the same page. And I have a calendar on there where as soon as I schedule a meeting with these guys, it shows up on there of when we're going to meet next time. And it also has the links to that Twitch and YouTube and Facebook account. And also I embedded on that page all of the previous YouTube videos. So everything's in one place. You don't have to go hunting and pecking for it. And if you want to be involved in this and talk to these guys, there's a link right there on the screen under us for the Living Systems Institute. So you can go to that website, use the contact us button or whatever to contact David and get involved that way. And we will see you next time. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank